Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime. It's June the 5th, 2013. Indeed, the Eagles can fly and reach the stars. We know that.
All right. Good evening and welcome to KTN Prime. I'm Betty Callow.
Quick break here. It's just
Heartbreak at home. Super Eagles fly past the stars.
Access denied. Journalist kicked out of Parliament's media center.
I want to state that indeed crime in the first quarter of the year has decreased.
Reduced crime in the country. Do you feel it?
And on Perspective tonight, a cry from the water towers.
Good evening and welcome to a story that you may not believe very much if you live in certain parts of the country.
Well, a new report by the police suggests that crime in the country reduced by 10% in the first quarter of the year.
But are you feeling more secure? Well, KTN's Rita Tinina with a reality check.
Throughout the country, crime seems to be on an upsurge. Not so according to the latest police report.
Crime in the first quarter of the year has decreased.
But tell that to Felix Mwaniki, a taxi driver.
Security mbaya kwa Eldoret. Idara ya taxi tuko insecurity kabisa.
Mwaniki was last month robbed of his only source of livelihood, his taxi, by people who had posed as customers.
Wapeleka Moi Barracks. Kwa kufika karibu na Moi Barracks wakani hijack.
Mwaniki hails from Wasingishu County in Rift Valley, a region that even according to the police report recorded the highest number of crimes with over 7,500 cases compared to just 454 in northeastern since the beginning of the year.
We have to make a lot of gains. We will collectively share and own these gains.
But even as the police celebrate what they say is a 10% reduction in crime, a reminder that insecurity is an ever-present danger. 2 suspects on the police wanted list were shot dead near Londiani Forest in what officers said was a clash of 2 rival gangs. Kimayo says the force will put in place a crime management strategy.
The installation of the CCTV cameras, most specifically in most of the prone or crime-prone areas.
But for Felix Mwaniki, it will take much more than a 10% reduction in crime and a statement from the Inspector General to make him feel safe and to convince him that when he gets a new taxi, his source of livelihood will be secure. Rita Tinina, KTN.
All right, from security matters now to Parliament and the politics of the day, where not only journalists were thrown out today, but Parliament also did approve the 2 cabinet nominees before them. They're joined now by our very own reporter who's been holding brief for us in Parliament, and that's Aaron Osheng. Aaron, what happened today in Parliament?
Well, Smart, today it was a very interesting day in Parliament. As you know, this is Wednesday, and normally parliamentary proceedings start as early as 9 o'clock. So in the early morning, journalists thronged Parliament to cover the proceedings. But we got a very rude shock, a communication from the clerk of the National Assembly to journalists that we are no longer needed in the precincts of Parliament. And he said this is because Parliament is congested and the room that has been serving as a media center is designated to be used for other purposes. And he said whenever Parliament will be needing coverage from press, they will be communicating with their various media houses so that they can call their journalists to come to Parliament. But the business of going to Parliament without a notification from a Parliamentary Service Commission or the people who are in charge of the press is no longer entertained. This is the story that I prepared earlier on in the day. The ultimatum to journalists to vacate Parliament's media centre from Thursday henceforth was communicated to members of the press early Wednesday morning by Clerk of the National Assembly Justin Bundi through Parliament's liaison press officer. According to the communication, this building that has been used by members of parliament for press briefings and journalists to file their parliamentary stories will now be used to hold parliamentary committee meetings. The clerk has also ordered that journalists will only cover parliamentary proceedings by invitation. According to sources, the decision to kick out journalists from parliament was reached during a House committee meeting held on Tuesday. It is reported that several members of the committee were angered by the way the media has reported the push by MPs for a salary hike. Parliamentary sources confirmed that some members of the committee wanted a total ban of journalists from parliament. But it was agreed that journalists would be asked to surrender the media center for other parliamentary uses.
Telling us that we have to do our stories somewhere else, apart from this media center, which was negotiated for by KPJA and the administration of Parliament, it's going to make it pretty difficult for us to cover, and we will try our best to do that, but it won't be easy.
The Media Council has termed the decision as most unfortunate, as it would take away the convenience of filing stories from the precincts of Parliament. The chairman, Joe Odindo, told KTN by telephone that they would meet the Speaker of the National Assembly next week to discuss the matter. The media and Parliament need each other. The two institutions have had a long-standing relations, he said, adding, we can come to a reasonable solution. For now, journalists will have to rely on the signal from KBC to follow the proceedings of Parliament.
Well, that story leads us to the question, and tonight we ask you, do you support the decision by Parliament to restrict the media within its precincts? Send your yes or no response to brief comments to number 8040 Bet and I with sample of views during this live newscast and give the poll result at the end of this bulletin.
Well, amid the surprise turn of events, the journalists were able to cover one other story from the House today, and it is about the green light for the final two cabinet secretaries vetted by the MPs a few days ago.
Well, the National Assembly approved the nomination of Joseph Olelenku as Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government and Kambi Kazungu as Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Services.
The two are expected to be sworn in tomorrow and will take full charge of their ministries. The vetting process scrutinized the nominees' ability to perform their academic qualifications as well as nominees' integrity.
Parliament has now vetted all the 18 cabinet secretaries, with only one nominee being rejected at the committee stage, but later cleared by the whole House.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto says the bid by the Kenya government to become a temporary member of the United Nations Security Council has nothing to do with the pending cases at the International Criminal Court.
Well, Ruto says Kenya is exercising its right in pushing for the slot.
Well, Ruto spoke on his arrival from Japan, where he commented on the application by the child chamber judges to have a part of his trial heard either in Kenya or Tanzania.
Matters of what is happening with ICC, those ones, they will be handled by my lawyers. I have a competent team and I pay them. It is important for Kenya, as a member of the family of nations, to sit in the United Nations Security Council. It will not be the first time Kenya will be seeking membership. Japan, for the record, is also seeking membership of the United Nations Security Council. And Kenya, like any other country, has a right to sit in that important body.
Still on the Deputy President, a day after we aired the plight of families whose kin are being held by the Al-Shabaab in Somalia, the government is promising some action. Without giving details, Deputy President William Ruto says the government will ensure that 6 hostages return home safe and sound. Asha Mulu has our update.
We're going to mobilize every man to make sure that our men and women on the front line are safe. And if they have been kidnapped for whatever reason, we find the mechanism to ensure that we get them back home.
The voice of hope for some 6 Kenyans said to be in the custody of the terror group Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Deputy President William Ruto speaking in the wake of passionate pleas from the victims' families. Mula Edward Yese, a district officer in Burdei, and AP officers Frederick Churchill and Joseph Wambogo are among those kidnapped by suspected Al-Shabaab militiamen and are believed to be held in Somalia.
We came together as families of the hostages, the 6 hostages. We sent our agent to Somalia, and we still believe that we will ensure that our people come back home.
It is our responsibility as government to ensure that every Kenyan is safe and secure.
Ruto, who returned from a week-long meeting in Japan, says his visit also featured a meeting with the Somali president, where Kenya-Somalia security matters took center stage. President Uhuru Kenyatta also met the Somali president at the Sagana State Lodge. The two heads of states established a joint task force to prepare the August conference on refugees. Reports suggest that some 6 Kenyans are missing following the spate of attacks, but it is feared that the number could be a lot higher. Asha Mwilu, KTN.
We will definitely keep tabs on that developing story, and a reminder to our big question we ask: do you support the decision by Parliament to restrict the media within its precincts? Send your yes or no response with a brief comment to the number 8040, and Smart and I will sample your views during this newscast and give you the poll results at the end of this bulletin.
Indeed, you're watching KTN Prime. Just ahead.
On our daily budget countdown, we'll be telling you why Treasury says the budgetary allocations, especially for governance, will outstrip the budget. Also, Centum Investment has reported a 110% profit jump and now is looking at 3 new subsidiaries. These and more on business news.
Welcome back. You watching KTN Prime. Now, Kenya Wildlife Service officials have been busy across the country over the last couple of days.
Well, cases of human-wildlife conflict have been reported in various counties, but as KTN's Edith Kimani reports, the conflict has quickly turned the predator to the prey.
What do you call 2 buffaloes trampling potential harvest on Naivasha farms? That's right, dinner. These 2 unlucky buffaloes strayed from the Longonot National Park straight into hungry residents' hands. One of the buffaloes was shot dead by KWS rangers, and this one divided into dinner portions for all in pursuit. Nothing was spared. Stomach lining and head alike.
Mimi mwenyewe nimekatwa kidole hapa kwa sababu nilikuwa najaribu hata mimi nipate nikule ugali vizuri leo.
In Surugoi village of Nyandarua County, it was a big cat that fell victim to its own instincts. KWS officers were forced to kill a stray lioness which had been terrorizing the villagers. 3 cows died under the big cat's reign. Another unwelcome guest has also made its way to Milimani village in Samburu. Here, a leopard has invaded 4 manyatas in as many occasions, killing 15 goats and sheep. What is interesting in Samburu is that, unlike in Nyandarua and Naivasha, KWS are allegedly yet to respond to the residents' complaints. The villagers say they are hungry for its blood, and it is now clear just how dangerous a hungry man can be. Edith Kimani, KTN Prime.
All right, now the World Environment Day has been marked today amid growing concern over the wastage of food across the globe. A new report suggests that up to 1/3 of all the food produced on the planet goes to waste.
Environmentalists say this waste is putting huge pressure on natural resources and the environment. The theme of this year's celebration is Think, Eat, Save.
Well, campaigners are now calling for more efficient technologies to reduce the amount of food that perishes after harvest.
Countries like Kenya are now being asked to hasten their infrastructure projects to improve access to markets. The global celebrations were held in Mongolia, a country that prides itself in promoting traditional methods of food preservation.
Indeed, and that theme of the environment is the subject of tonight's edition of Perspective. John Alanamu and Eric Njoka as they take a closer look at the state of Kenya's water towers.
Several years after the government began a squatters eviction program. Time for business. The Ports Authority has dismissed a World Bank over a report alleging that the facility was congested and risked losing business from landlocked countries. In a press conference held today at KPA headquarters, Managing Director Gishiri Ndoa denied the report, which said that congestion at the port was not sitting well with landlocked countries that rely on it. Ndoa indicated that there were estimated 13,000 containers at the port at the moment, while its capacity had been expanded to accommodate 30,000 containers at the time.
Say that bag number 18 is empty, 19 is empty, and somebody else from somewhere says they are occupied. Which one shall we take? We can evidently show, we can clearly demonstrate what we are saying, and it's not unusual that even those institutions commit consultants to undertake work for themselves. We are not here to work for the interests of any other body. We are here to ensure that the economy of Kenya and that of the neighboring countries, they are well served through our port.
The National Treasury says the decision by the Senate to up county government allocation to 238 billion will strain the operations of the central government. Adelaide Changole has the details.
While debating the Division of Revenue Bill, the Senate saw it fit to increase county government allocation to 238 billion shillings. However, Treasury insists that this was uncalled for since the initial 198 billion allocation it had issued was sufficient. This, it adds, will now strain the operations of the central government.
We looked at what is the cost of those functions, and we arrived at 198. That's the proposal we sent to the National Assembly. Following some discussions, it was increased to 210. So even with that increase, there is already a financing gap.
He said the Division of Revenue had to factor in both the central government and counties, with both getting the necessary funds to ensure they continue to provide all the services needed by citizens.
Keep in mind that resources are finite. The revenues are fixed at a certain level. Borrowing is fixed at a certain level. You need to fund both levels of government while ensuring that neither of the two levels of government suffers service disruption.
But the chairman of the Senate Finance, Commerce and Economic Affairs Committee, Bilokero, defended the Senate decision, saying the 198 billion shilling allocation would have crippled operations in several counties.
That would raise the total amount to about 39%, which we think as a start. In fact, for most counties, you'll probably have no money for development projects. That money will just be enough to finance ongoing service.
Kero said the central government needed to rationalize its ministries to cater for devolution. He cited the health docket, which has a budget allocation of 34 billion shillings, saying these funds were superfluous since all hospitals, save for the Kenyatta National Hospital and the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, had been devolved to counties. There has to be a delicate balancing act to ensure both the national government and the county governments have the funds they need to run their affairs without either impacting on the other. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business Today.
Listed investment firm Centum has created 2 more subsidiaries as it steps up efforts to seek third-party funds to grow the business. This follows the licensing of Centum asset managers earlier this week. The subsidiaries will take real estate and private equity arms of the business.
In 2009, Centum Investments set out on a 5-year strategic plan that focused on delivering returns that outstrip those other Nairobi Securities Exchange. To ensure future growth, Centum is restructuring its business to create new subsidiaries from its existing 3 business lines. Already its first subsidiary, Centum Asset Managers, is up and running, with a further 2 to be operational within the year.
Centum Asset Managers is geared to work with existing fund managers to create structured products that are targeted towards making investments in private equity opportunities and real estate opportunities, and to create a class of alternative assets that's going to be available to the capital markets.
From its real estate business comes Athena Properties Limited as a wholly owned subsidiary. Athena is charged with offering services to other large-scale property development companies. Also in the horizon is Centum Capital Partners, who will handle the firm's private equity business with the view of improving acquisitions and major investment opportunities both locally and in the region.
We established Athena Properties Company at the beginning of this year, January 2013, and the purpose was to create an entity with a capacity to support end-to-end our property development initiatives and attract a team of individuals with experience to undertake large master planned developments.
Centum Investment announced a 110 jump in the net profits to 2.5 billion shillings for the year ended 31st March. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
And now to other stories making headlines in the world of business.
Hundreds of workers at the East Africa's only oil refinery protested on Wednesday at the threatened closure of the facility on Kenya's Indian Ocean coastline and its possible conversion into a storage facility. About 200 workers of an oil workers union took part in the protest, refusing to report to work in the morning shift. They say their action will draw attention to the fact that their jobs could be lost should the plant be shut. The workers demand that the refinery's management and the Ministry of Energy inform them within 21 days of the decision on the future of the plant, warning that the failure to do so will result in an issue of a strike notice. South Africa's Orange River Sellers has formed a partnership with charity general agencies in Kenya to grow the wine industry across the East African region. Established in 1965, River Orange Sellers, dealing in sweet, dry, semi-sweet and sparkling wines, is expected to tap into the growing consumption of both red and white wines across the East African region. The winery is venturing into having vineyards in Kenya that will, going forward, produce, package and supply wine. RNA Kenya, the Jaguar Land Rover franchise holders in Kenya, have unveiled their fleet workshop located on Kampala Road in Nairobi's industrial area. The fleet workshop is the first since the company secured the franchise from CMC Holdings. The Kampala Road fleet workshop occupies 27,000 square feet and is expected to employ up to 80 full-time, high-skilled Land Rover mechanics. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
And finally, in business, the financial markets review.
Well, it's now time for KTN Sports Today. I am Nicholas Mudimba. It was meant to be a thriller and a chance for Harambee Stars to rescue their chances of qualifying for the World Cup. Instead, the Stars failed to shine at home as the Super Eagles flew past with an 80th minute goal. The scoreline means Kenya may as well forget any hopes of qualifying for next year's soccer extravaganza. The Super Eagles now top Group F.
Kenya's Harambee Stars, who entered the Kasarani Stadium as the last team in Pool F of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers, needed to win to resuscitate their chances of qualifying. And despite the match being played on a working day, the turnout provided enough support for the Stars to clip the Eagles' wings. Nigeria could have opened the scores as soon as the 3rd minute, after Stars' defense was caught napping, but the effort went wide. Jamal Mohammed broke early on in the opening exchanges as Adil Amrushia's boys showed their intent, only for lack of a clinical finisher depriving them of a goal. Ahmed Musa was the busy of the Super Eagles players as his free kick went inches wide. The Nigerians clawed back midfield possession as standing captain Victor Anyama was pushed and shoved and had to get medication twice as fans feared for the worst. The only important goal was not from a counter-attack from the evergreen Ahmed Musa, who was left with Duncan Ochieng to beat and he duly obliged to dim the stars.
Even David Ochieng could not do anything about it. Couldn't recover on time, and it went into the drop ball as well. That can only be said to be the brilliant work of a brilliant striker.
Well, you're right, Sunday working so hard.
Following the win, the Super Eagles are comfortably perched on Group F, as Malawi and Namibia played to a barren draw. Stars remain at the basement of the log. Nigeria have 8 points, Malawi are second on 6 points, with Namibia third on 4 points, with 2 rounds of matches to go. Reporting for KTN, I'm Hassan Juma.
Now history keeps on repeating itself since 1982. Moving on now, weekend came early for Kenyan soccer lovers as many took time off their midweek office schedules to watch the Group F World Cup qualifying match between African champions Nigeria and Harambee Stars. Our reporter Victor Gali monitored the fans streaming in from as early as 11 a.m. and brings us the sights and sounds from Kasarani.
Literally, all roads in the capital city led to the Moi Sports Center Kasarani, and they used all means possible, from luxurious cars to motorbikes. It did not matter the day or the crucial match being a weekday. Kenyans displayed their patriotism by painting the town and the match venue with the national colors. This man epitomized the true meaning of being a patriot.
Nimefanya kazi mpaka saa 8. Ndio nikaamua sasa nikuje nione mpira. Nilikuwa nimevaa hivi. Nimevaa namna hivi. Naweza ona kuanzia kwa kiato mpaka kwa socks. Naweza ona nimevaa bendera ya Kenya. Bendera ya taifa na niko nayo hata mkononi. Hata ya ndani iko na bendera.
Hii suit imenikost kitu kama 5,500. Kuongeza na viatu ni 3,000. Sasa ni around 8,000.
Tu nilipeleka katikati. Leo mtu anaitwa Victor Mugabe. Lazima ataonyesha Mikel si kitu.
And when the national team Harambee Stars enter the stadium, the whole stadium erupted with praising songs filling the air. Supporters of the visiting team are not buried in fear of being away as they too kept their voices high.
I can see the lovely atmosphere everywhere. Everywhere is colorful. But believe me, Nigeria will win today.
Yeah, they're coming up in football, but they are not yet a football nation. But you know about Nigeria is all about football is our culture.
Kenya plays away to Malawi in Mulongwe on the 12th of this month, with Arnold Origi and Dennis Oliet's presence for that time. Namibia settled to a barren draw with Malawi the other time on Wednesday afternoon.
Despite today being a weekday, Kenyans from all walks of life set aside their daily duties in support of their national team, Harambee Stars, here at the Moi Sports Center Kasarani against Nigeria. Victor Ogale, KTN, Nairobi.
From the disappointing day, let's now look at athletics. Sarah Wangari from Central carried the day on the first day of the Deaflympics trials at the Nyayo Stadium today after winning the 10,000 meters race. She clocked 40 minutes, 8.11 seconds, followed by Nyanza's Justa Kumboka, who clocked 40 minutes, 40.5 seconds. Nairobi's Veronica Wairumu was third in 44 minutes, 0.9 seconds. 300 athletes with hearing impairment competed in 26 different categories. The final are the set for tomorrow. Competing athletes were drawn from 10 regional trials conducted last February in Nairobi Coast, Nyanza, Rift Valley, Central, Eastern and Western. Kenya will take part in the two-day event. In the 10,000 meters, Simon Kibai came in first in a time of 29 minutes, 28.7 seconds. He was followed by Daniel Kiptum, who was timed at 30 minutes, 13.7 seconds, while David Kipkosgei came in third in a time of 31 minutes, 13.7 seconds.
Well, today is World Environment Day, and what better way to mark it than have perspective talk about it?
Indeed, that will be the center of perspective tonight. John Alanhamu and Eric Joker will be taking you through just our outer towers and what this World Environment Day really means. Just bring it home if you like.
All right, make sure you get tuned. I'm so excited already to the feature which is coming in just a short while. My name is Betty Callow. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
And I'm Tim Smart. Don't go too far.